Good, well, is it all right? Well, if you have any thoughts, it's very fine. Well, I think it's very out. Let's go to your survey. Yeah. Sister. Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. It is by my phone 2:04 p.m. in the afternoon of August 26th. It is Monday. This matter has been set and publicly noticed to accept comments on proposed rule amendments to Rule 6. just belt and suspenders. The purpose behind Rule 6 is to adopt the federal regulations necessary to qualify the state of Arkansas to receive and maintain authorization to implement the state water pollution control permitting program in lieu of the federal NPDES program pursuant to the Federal Clean Water Act 33 USC Section 1251 at sequence. And in order for DEQ to maintain its delegated authority to administer the NPDES permit program, DEQ must have rules as stringent as the federal program. The proposed changes to Rule 6 includes incorporation of updates to federal regulations, amendments to Regulation 6.104 to incorporate changes made to those regulations, incorporation of updates to Arkansas Law, Acts 94 of 575 and 575 of 2005, Acts 987, 1037 of 2017, Acts 315, 910 of 2019, Act 441 of 2021, and Act 446 of 2023. The amendments are also designed to provide clarification and minor corrections, and they are designed to amend Chapter 6 to be consistent with the Department of Agriculture's rule for liquid animal waste management systems, as well as stylistic and formatting corrections. I have two comment cards before me. The first one is Mr. Teague from the Farm Bureau. Evan, you are recognized. Come on up here. How much time do you think you need?
34 minutes.
Is the microphone on, Evan?
34 minutes.
Yep, I can hear you now.
Thank you, Judge. Again, my name is Evan Teague. I'm representing the Arkansas Farm Bureau Federation. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. Our comments will be focused on Chapter 6, specifically Rule 6602, Buffalo River Watershed. And while we understand and we appreciate the need for sensible and pragmatic regulations to protect the environment, we do not believe that this rulemaking represents. Banning an agricultural activity, hog farming in this instance, from a watershed implies that activity is a significant threat. Previous scientific studies have refuted these assertions or these assertions, and an ongoing yet to be published USGS study that was presented at AWRC's conference about 2 weeks ago also suggests that agricultural production is not the likely cause of ongoing issues in the Buffalo River. Singling out one economic sector without the supporting science is regulation by the precautionary principle. The right to farm is a foundational principle that supports the continuation of agricultural operations without unreasonable interference. This rule not only affects swine producers, but could also have long-lasting impact on a broader farming community and future generations of farmers. The proposed moratorium sets a precedent that could potentially lead to further restrictions on various types of farming within the watershed and beyond. Specifically regarding Chapter 6602, this language was originally included as part of a third-party rulemaking that was initiated in 2014 and finalized in 2015. The language provided an exemption for small farms, which has been removed in this proposed draft. All parties involved in the original process understood that 6602E of Reg 6 was intended to serve as a sunset clause by requiring the department to initiate rulemaking within 5 years to remove Rule 6602E or 6602 in its entirety. If the department chose to initiate rulemaking to make the moratorium permanent and the rulemaking failed, the moratorium language 6602 was to be stricken from the rule. If the department chose to remove the moratorium language and that failed, the moratorium would become permanent. In July 2019, the commission initiated rulemaking to make the moratorium permanent. During the 2020 legislative review process, the Public Health Committee refused to review the rulemaking, and the Administrative Rule Committee voted unanimously to disapprove the rulemaking. This moratorium should have ended at that point, but the department chose not to take action and left the language in the rule. Given this history, the current decision to pursue the same course of action raises significant concerns about the process and the justification for such a measure. We request the department and the commission cite which sections of Arkansas Code grants the department and the commission the authority to disregard the unanimous decision of a legislative committee by not removing this language. Had it been removed, we wouldn't have to address it now. In accordance with ADEQ rules, I respectfully request that the public comment period be extended for an additional 20 calendar days beyond the current deadline. Given the profound and long-term consequences of this rule, it is essential that all stakeholders have sufficient time to review, understand, and respond to the proposed regulations. Extending the public comment period will allow for a more thorough examination of the potential ripple effects on farming rights and the agricultural community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Teague. Next card that I have is Buffalo River Watershed Alliance, Mr. Watkins.
Thank you, Judge Moulton. I'm Gordon Watkins. I'm the president of the Buffalo River Watershed Alliance. And we have spoken extensively on this issue over the years due to the CNH hog farm matter. And I'm going to submit more extensive written comments before the deadline. But I had a couple of questions, really. As you can imagine, I have a different opinion than the previous speaker, and we are in support of the changes in Chapter 6 regarding Buffalo River Watershed and prohibitions against any future permits. And that, so we're behind that section. But I do have questions about the following sections, section 6.602C, which says this rule does not prohibit the director from issuing a new Rule 6 permit for a facility that holds an active liquid animal waste management systems permit as of the effective date of this rule. The previous language, I think, specified Regulation 5, which is liquid animal waste management systems regulations. And of course, that's a state program as distinct from this NPDES program. But I went back through to try to see exactly how many existing permits are open in the Buffalo River watershed. And I looked at Newton County, Searcy County, Marion County, and I saw four permits that were noted as active. All of the rest of permits for those counties were voided, but these four were active. And looking through the permit information, including inspection reports, it shows that most of them have not had any animals present for years. Some of them 10 or 15 years. Every one of them says that there's no activity at this time, not in production, no swine, ponds essentially empty. And that was as far back as 2011 on one of these. In 2018, DEQ sent out a letter to these and probably other permittees requesting their annual reports. They had not been receiving annual reports. Some of them for 10 years hadn't submitted annual reports. And it didn't seem that they were forthcoming. I did not see any records of any annual reports from these four facilities since then. So I don't know if that's a laxity on the part of DEQ not following up on that, or why those permits are being held open. But my question is, given the language now that's in 6.602C, could those active permit holders with no animals present reactivate that permit and repopulate those farms with the same number of animals that they had before? For example, one of them is 425 sows, no sows now. So even though that facility has effectively been closed and non-operational, even though it has an active permit, could that permit be reopened and restocked with animals? Can you tell me?
Mr. Watkins, my role as the hearing officer is just to accept comments, not to answer questions or give opinions. And frankly, I don't know enough about it. Even if I was inclined to, I would tell you I don't know, because the answer is I don't know.
Okay,
But
I'll take it up with DEQ then. But you see my concern is that could those permits be reconstituted essentially, and could they be used? For example, the EC Farms case, which you may recall, was adjacent to CNH hog farms, and it was one of these. It's one of these four permits that's currently active. But it had been shut down years before, had no ponds, no animals, but they had the permit so they could accept waste from CNH. And their current permit says they can only accept waste from CNH, which of course is non-existent now. but they kept it open so that they could accept waste from other farms, CNH in this case. So I assume that the same would hold true for these other permittees, that they could reopen their permits and accept waste from some other location. And I know there's a big issue right now with industrial waste. A couple of waste haulers have been prohibited from hauling waste into Missouri now. Oklahoma, I think, is tightening down on it, and so they're running out of space to put waste from the processing plants, primarily from Tyson's and George's and those types of facilities. So I guess my other concern is, could these permits accept industrial waste if they were reactivated? I think that's going to be again, I'm not asking you a question, you made that clear, but I want to pose it to you just so you know what I'm thinking about. So those are our concerns. And we think, Mr. Teague mentioned that this does not offer any protection to small farmers. And I don't think that language was in the previous one, because if you read the definitions in the current draft, it defines a CAFO as a medium or large AFO, animal feeding operation. So it doesn't even, small operations do not even fall under the definition of a CAFO. So this could not apply to them in any case. But we think this is a good protection. We don't say how anybody in their right mind would seek a permit in the Buffalo River watershed, considering what CNH went through. And we know that ultimately their permit renewal was denied. Their switch to Reg 5 was denied because they could not comply with the Agricultural Waste Management Field Handbook, which is the guidance that they're required to follow. And when they got their Reg 6 permit initially, ADQ did not hold them to that. When they went back due to lawsuits and public pressure and read the fine print a little more closely, they realized that they could not comply with that handbook. And so we think that's going to be true of any facility of a similar size anywhere in the Buffalo River watershed. It's all karst, with very few exceptions. And we think that that's a bad place to put a hog farm or any liquid waste. One of these active applications is a dairy farm in Searcy County. So we think it's a good move. It's not going to inhibit farming. There's lots of places in this state where agriculture can accept that waste and make good use of it. Not in the Ozarks, particularly not in the Buffalo River watershed. So I'll leave it at that for now, but I'll present my written comments at a later date. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Watkins. Those are the cards that I have. Anyone else like to speak to of these proposed changes that's in the room? Schauberg, in line with Mr. Teague's request to extend the comment period. I don't know what your schedule is. Typically, I just grant those as a matter of course. Is that going to have some sort of issue with your schedule, sir? Come on up here, Mr. Hicks and Mr. Elberg. Go to the microphone so we can get a record if you don't mind. So first off, the comment period right now is cut off when, Pete?
Let me look. I don't want to be
Sure.
It was September 5th.
September 5th.
We wouldn't object to it lengthening the comment period by 10 days, but we would like to try and keep this on track with our time schedule.
So I think Mr. Teague asked for
20 days.
10 days. Is that right, Mr. Teague?
Would it be okay to extend it to the 15th? Would you be okay with that, Mr. Teague?
I think the statute says that I can extend it up to 10 days, but I don't have to do 10 days, right? I can do something, split the baby, 7 days, 5 days. If I do,
I guess,
Mr. Albert,
I guess we have an agreement to extend it to the 16th,
for the 16th,
September 16th.
like September 16th. Know for the record that I did grant Mr. Teague's request and that the comment period has been extended now to September 16th. That applies to written comments, not necessarily oral comments, because this is the only opportunity to provide oral comments. Anyone else like to speak to this matter? If not, it is about 12:21, the afternoon of August 26th. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to a close. Oh, yes, sir. Sorry?
You said 12.
I didn't hear you, sir. You're gonna have to come up.
It's 2:21. You said
2:21? It's been a long day already. Monday,
For the record.
for the record. The date that I said was wrong. The date today is what it should be. In any event, I'll call this hearing to a close. Thank you all very much.